Welcome back. It is still Monday, the start of February 2016, a very monumental month. It's my birthday. But this is still the morning edition on I-24 News, and thank you for staying with us because it's a monumental morning. Back in Israel, where the war between factions of the Jewish religion over prayer rights at the Western Wall in Jerusalem has been going on for more than a decade now, yesterday the Israeli cabinet has brought this bitter fight to an end. Because speaking of monumentally approving a historic compromise decision to create an egalitarian prayer space for conservative and reformist Jews in the holiest of Jewish heritage sites. The ultra-Orthodox party and Netanyahu's coalition have voted against the decision, but did not exert their political powers to stop it. This seemingly puts an end to the monopoly held by the ultra-Orthodox rabbinate of Israel on prayer arrangements near the Western Wall, a place that many consider to be a sacred remnant of the biblical Holy Temple. It signifies a huge victory for Women of the Wall, a religious feminist group which has fought tirelessly for women's prayer rights at the site, including singing and wearing religious garments deemed for men only by Orthodox sects. The group was supported by leaders of non-Orthodox Jewish stream in the U.S. and around the world, who are believed to have lobbied the Israeli government into accepting this pluralistic resolution. But is the fight really over? Or is it far from over? Has it just begun again? With me in studio to answer this question and more are Rabbi Noah Satat, Director of the Reform Movement's local advocacy arm. I want to thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev, good morning to you. And also Ed Retting, Research Fellow at Agov Center for the Study of Israel and the Jewish People. I want to thank you for being with us. Before we break it down, let's take a look at the following report by Tamar Ziv about this landmark victory for Jewish pluralism.
It's a historic agreement held by some as a revolution for women and Jewish pluralism in the Holy Land. The Israeli cabinet has approved the so-called Mandelblit plan for a third egalitarian prayer section at Jerusalem's Western Wall. The new area, called Ezrat Yisrael, is to be located in the Western Wall Plaza's southernmost corner underneath Robinson's Arch, which has already been used frequently for egalitarian prayer services. The Women of the Wall group, which fights for women's prayer rights at Judaism's holiest accessible site, said the decision marks the state's acknowledgement of women's full equality and autonomy at the Kotel, as well as the imperative of freedom of choice in Judaism in Israel. The plan constitutes a landmark compromise, ending a decades-long fight between Women of the Wall and Israel's ultra-Orthodox religious establishment. In addition to the creation of the new section, the agreement also consolidates ultra-Orthodox control of the Orthodox section. The deal, however, is likely to spark further controversy. Several groups have declared their opposition to the cabinet decision, including the original Women of the Wall, which broke away from the Women of the Wall group and declared that it will continue to hold prayer services at the Western Wall, and not at the Robinson's Arch site located in the southern expanse of the Western Wall. On the other end of the religious spectrum, ultra-Orthodox lawmakers have announced that they intend to try to block funding for the new prayer section.
I want to start straight with Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent. This is monumental. Why now? And why did this pass?
Well, I would say that the vote comes after 3 years of negotiations and a disagreement of decades. And the ultra-Orthodox establishment was trying to block this effort for years. They're trying to block the effort to make the site more inclusive because, from their point of view, this is a de facto official recognition of the reform and conservative movements. But this decision is definitely eyed. The eyes are directed to the United States and mainly to American Jewry, which this has been a major point of contention between American Jewry and the Israeli establishment in recent years. And just last year at November at the GA, at the General Assembly of the Jewish Organizations in the United States, Netanyahu actually vowed to make the country more open for the reform and for the conservative movement and for conservative and reform Jews. And this is actually the implementation of that. That being said, we did have 5 ministers who voted against this. They didn't block it completely, but for instance, the Religious Services Ministry is not going to be funding this solution, and there have been reports.
Who is going to be funding this
solution? Mainly the Prime Minister's office. And the Prime Minister's office and the Jewish Agency are going to be in charge of this solution. And that being said, There have been reports that the ultra-Orthodox MKs are going to try and block the funding in the Israeli parliament. We are still not there. We're still a far distance away from actually implementing this. But just as a statement, this is a very important statement coming from the Israeli government.
From the Israeli government, and we're joined, speaking of the Israeli government, we're also joined via Skype now from Beit Shemesh by former Minister of Parliament, Rabbi Dov Lipman. Rabbi Lipman, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. You're not very much in favor of this decision, are you?
I'm not. Whenever I hear the terminologies of historic, monumental, compromise, I don't understand. The ultra-Orthodox parties in the government voted against it. They're going to continue fighting against it. I'm very happy for Reform and conservative Jews who will have a place to pray and they'll feel comfortable. But when we're looking at this on a national level and where we are as a people, we're in the exact same place. There's two different camps. They're fighting against each other. They'll continue fighting against each other. I don't know what the ultra-Orthodox parties were given to not bring down the government over this issue, but they're going to continue fighting very hard. We're still in a place of fraction between our people and polarization, and that's a shame. And I don't see any kind of historic compromise. I see that we were able to make...
Why is this not the beginning of something new? I mean, at the end of the day, it has to come with some sort of a decision, and after a battle of... I've been covering the Women of the Wall my entire journalistic career. This is some step forward, isn't it?
Well, again, I've had ongoing communication with many of the women involved in Women of the Wall who've been asking me to please step in and help. Their whole point is that there's nothing wrong with what they're doing on the women's side, and there's no reason for the men to be demanding anything of them. I'm all for compromise, though. And if this was a compromise, then I'd be applauding it. But this wasn't a compromise. The ultra-Orthodox will continue fighting against it. I'm actually scared about, because of their statements, harsh statements, comparing what's happened here to the worst possible things about now extremists on the ultra-Orthodox side showing up, disrupting the prayers even on that side. I think we have a mess brewing on our hands. That's why I wouldn't call it compromise. I'm happy for Reform and conservative Jews who have a place to pray, but for anybody who thinks that we've reached some kind of historic agreement, the Prime Minister was able to politically push something through which will help the Reform and conservative. It doesn't help the Orthodox women who still want to pray at the Western Wall itself on the women's side. And again, the fact that the ultra-Orthodox are so vocally against it, we have lots of struggles ahead.
I want to thank you, Dov Lipman, for joining us this morning on this very hotly debated issue in Israel. Same question to you, because with us in studio, as we said, is Rabbi Noah Satat, director of the Reform Movement's local advocacy arm. Would you agree with that? Because there is a valid point to what Rabbi Lipman has said, that this can just be lip service at the end of the day.
I think that I totally agree with the fact that the implementation is crucial. And from today, we are following up on the implementation, which will take time. But I disagree with the fact that this is not historic. The Israeli government yesterday recognized for the first time the Reform and conservative streams of Judaism. It also recognized, even more importantly, it recognized tolerance, pluralism, and equality as Jewish values that have a room in Jewish practice and in the Jewish sphere. So I think that it's historic, even if while I recognize that implementation still has to take place, and there may be challenges, and we will follow up on these challenges and face them as we have now. And I also want to say that in the question of why now, I think that for 27 years, the heroic Women of the Wall have been protesting every month, and that has finally tipped the scale.
Tipped the scale, but and I'm asking you, though, I'm gonna go a little bit personal. You are very proudly, and bravo to you, an openly gay, rabbi, trying to maintain a life in a country that completely dismisses your existence when it comes to religion. What else? Yeah. What else needs to be done? Though, if this is just lip service, then what is the other move?
So I think that the thing that is most moving to me in this very happy moment is I think that we have a model here, a model of unity and not conformity. Jewish people will enter the Western Wall site and be able to choose between an Orthodox path and a pluralistic path. And that is the model of Judaism everywhere in Israel. People should be able to choose between an Orthodox wedding or an ultra-Orthodox wedding, and other ways of getting married. People should be able to choose conversion. People should be able to choose the Judaism that reflects their values and their lives.
And their lives. And I'm going to ask, and Ed Redding, luckily you're with us as well, research fellow at the Grove Center. people should be able to choose. Why is Israel so adamant about not allowing in, and I think that's important to viewers anywhere, everywhere in the world, not allowing in other forms of practice when it comes to the religion?
I would say, well, you know what? Let me back up a second and just I have three things I've been thinking about this. And number one, I do agree on one level. This is a historic moment. It's a form of recognition, sort of scratching your left ear with your right hand. But it is a form of recognition, of legitimation of non-Orthodox forms of Judaism. That may be its real significance. Number two, there were losers here, people who lost out. When I actually was at some of the early meetings of Women of the Wall almost 3 decades ago, and a majority of the women there were Orthodox women who wanted recognition of women's voices. They could sing, and women reading Torah, but they did not want, they were not in that sense pluralistic, they were Orthodox. And they are completely outside this agreement. Now, as an act of tzedakah, they may get some space in the Azrat Yisrael area, but they don't have a political lobby for them. Right. And I think we ought to think about that because it raises my third point. One of the odd things here is the reform movement, which in America is the champion of separation of church and state. Here, what we see, and this is another second big project that they're involved in. The first was the Bagatz that got Rabbi Miri Gold recognized as a government employee rabbi. What happens is Israel has an established Jewish church. Church in that technical sense that they use the term in America, a Jewish bureaucracy of religion. It's established the way the Anglican Church is established in England. And that's a question that we just don't ask ourselves. Do we really want a bunch of politicians sitting around a government table making decisions on what form of Judaism is legitimate and what form of Judaism is not? And when you look at the reform movement from that perspective, in America, it is the champion of keeping the government out of religion.
And you know, joining us on this, because I think it's such a legitimate point that you just raised, joining us via Skype from Jerusalem now as well as activist, author, teacher, and woman of the wall, Rabbi Susan Silverman. I want to thank you very much for being with us this morning. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to what was discussed in studio right now, but that's basically it. Monumental, historic decision, but do the women of the wall, the women actually within the religion, and people of Israel want the government to be the one deciding how to practice the religion?
Ultimately, no. Ultimately, for me, I speak for myself. You can't speak for every woman of the wall because we believe in pluralism and everybody has their own opinion about this. But I absolutely do not want the government making religious decisions for us.
That said, it just did, and it helped. I mean, in that respect, didn't it?
Right. Well, we're working within the system that we have.
Right.
Ultimately, I personally would like to work toward a separation of, as you said before, as church, like the technical church and state. I think that's really important. I think it's really dangerous when we have like religious views coming into our political and governmental decisions.
And when you're looking at the decision that was made yesterday, because the discussion right now around the table is it monumental or historic, or is it, as you know, and Tal Shalev is also with us in studio, is it something that is somewhat of a political capital just to be given to American Jewry, and keep the ultra-Orthodox within the country slightly quiet because it will not be implemented, is the fear?
Wait, I'm not sure I understood the question.
Well, saying, do you think that this is a monumental decision that was made yesterday, or it's just yet again political capital played by the Israeli administration?
That I don't know. I have learned not to state what I think people's motives are publicly, but I do believe that that this is an important step in the sense that we will now, at our most holy site, regardless of government oversight over this site. The site is a holy, holy place.
Right.
And at this holy place, we will see a kind of Judaism that is vibrant and rich and accepting and letting God be the true judge, not having human beings be the judge.
And when it comes to the Women of the Wall, because you've been a champion of this group for over a decade, I mean, this is somewhat of a vindication, isn't it?
Vindication, it's a step forward. It's a big step forward. I mean, are we vindicated? I don't know. Like, I'm not sure that I trust the entire system. But are we moving forward in a very positive way? Yes. Are we going to have a kind of Judaism that is pluralistic and open-hearted? Yes.
Okay, I mean, we're gonna leave you with those words because we hope that is eventually what will happen at the end of the day. Tal, just to conclude this, just time will tell, I'm assuming, if this will be implemented on the side.
Well, yeah, there's probably a very long list of Israeli governmental decisions that haven't been implemented, and this could very well add to this. But I do think that as we're talking about the relation between the Israeli government and the country of Israel and the Jewish diaspora, then the statement by itself is a very important statement, one that is very much appreciated in American Jewry and this and amongst American Jewry, and this is really a strategic issue. American Jewry for Israel. It's not only about Jewish connections, it's about maintaining the support of American Jewry for Israel, and this was a very significant stub into that support.
I want to thank everybody. Stay with us. We'll be back soon.